à porter vos masques, à vous laver régulièrement les mains et à faire appel à un médecin ou à tout autre personnel de santé au cas où des symptômes apparaissent. C'est le seul moyen de préserver les vies et de freiner la propagation du virus.
We are pleased to have you on today's edition of the program. Welcome to Press Hour. On today's edition of Press Hour, we're going to look at COVID-19 upsurging in Cameroon following the trends around the world. And we are also going to look at civil protection. This week was the International Civil Protection Week with the day on Monday. We're going to see how protective it is in Cameroon. And to discuss these topics, we have a panel already set here in the studio. I'm going to start from the extreme right of the set. Bertrand Noir, or you would like to call yourself otherwise Bertrand Noir. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for inviting me, Kilian. Happy Sunday to all the panelists.
Yes, Bertrand is the coordinating editor of the media newspaper.
And equally the Yaoundé City reporter.
Okay, fine. Next to me, we are honored to have Pa Fai Fominen Ngu Edward. He is a medical practitioner, traditional practitioner by his right. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I think I'm happy to be present here today.
Yes, it's an honor, Pa. We have our able Henshaw Orok Array, civil society. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mr. Kilian Danzifon, for inviting me. Good afternoon to my co-panelists. Good afternoon to our viewers. I'm always pleased to be here to dish out the few knowledge I have to the public.
Baldwin Sama is a household name in CRTV. Baldwin, you have been covering COVID-19, I think, since it started in Cameroon. Every evening we see you on the screen covering COVID-19. You are also a sports reporter, apart from being a news presenter in CRTV. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Kilian. Good day. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and right away we are going to invite Manuela Vemnu to remind us about what happened during the week as seen by the press in our regular slot press review. Manuela?
The resurgence of the coronavirus pandemic in Cameroon got the press pressing for the respect of barrier measures to flatten the infection curve. Panic as Northwest hit by a second wave of COVID-19. Headlines The Horizon. Then Cameroon Tribune calls for maximum alert against the dangerous second wave, especially as government declares 10,000 COVID-19 cases in 2 months on the post-weekender. As COVID-19 keeps spreading, government's SOS call is loud on Cameroon Insider, and that quickly imposes a low-key EMEA graduation ceremony on the Eden. The Guardian Post brings to the fore Health Minister's denial of rumors on alleged purchase of 25 ambulances at 7 billion CFA francs to manage COVID-19, just when China promises 200,000 vaccines to combat the pandemic on Cameroon Tribune. Eco Outlook chronicles how the pandemic made 2020 a devastating year for world forest with funding cut down. Ebam military excesses are brought to the limelight by Human Rights Watch on The Voice. To the Eden, Human Rights Watch unearths another atrocious rape of 20 women by military. Then government strikes Human Rights Watch over false report on military on The Guardian Post and says on Newswatch that the damaging Human Rights Watch report is hearsay before accusing Human Rights Watch of fueling war in northwest and southwest on the horizon. Yet government's response fails to address mass rape allegation in Ebam on the Post newspaper as rights groups U.S. Embassy calls for investigation, punishment of culprits. Happening when former DO is slaughtered in Nwa, while hundreds flee to Nigeria on The Guardian Post as violence escalates there. The Post reports that as consequences of the crisis, 2 women are detained for allegedly trafficking 26 children. Separatist fighters then drops arm in Kumba on Cameroon Tribune to The Guardian Post. Dreaded Amba General drops arms, announces crusades to woo others. Diaspora Ambazonian warlord then weeps as more fighters drop arms on the Herald Tribune. But the horizon zooms on ex-separatist commander Nambere, who regrets dropping arms due to harassment from uniformed men. Then CDC fighting wars on multiple fronts on the Sun with separatist attacks and power tussle between board chair and GM reported. Cameroon's MPs then confront U.S. congressmen on resisting repatriation of asylum seekers on Cameroon Tribune, before MPs clarify U.S. Congress on Cameroon's democratic space on municipal updates. Joshua Osi tells of Kamto and Nincher on controversial memo to U.S. Congress on The Guardian Post. To the Eden, trying to swim out of complicit petition, Honorable Osi dives deep in hot water. The Post writes Honorable Osi didn't sign the documents challenging U.S. Congress, but Women's Day activities are reported by the papers with a low-key celebration due to the COVID-19 spread. Sports events and roundtable conferences take center stage. The recovery by Treasury of billions fraudulently stashed into illegal accounts, the reinforcement of Turkish-Cameroon cooperation, the arrest of a teacher in Boya for raping impregnating Anglophone crisis teenage IDP, the assistance from Customs Director General to Anglophone crisis IDPs in Yaoundé, the detention of a policeman in Boya for harassing taxi driver crashing vehicle, and the death of a prominent humanitarian and blogger Henriette Thatcher also included stories reported by the papers this week. Let's wrap up this press review with a story on The Guardian Post, where 80 students have been arrested in Kumba Southwest region for alleged group sex and drug consumption. The students from different schools are said to have dodged classes to a particular spot, Barombi Lake, where they consumed hard drugs, alcohol, and conducted group sex. Arrested and taken to the SDO's office, the administrative official ordered that the children be kept in custody until their parents come and sign an engagement to report such acts if they repeat themselves. The students were later released after signing an undertaking to be upright. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela Vemnui. We can't wait to have you come our way again. And God willing, that will be next Sunday, same time. You listen to Emanuela review the press for this week, just gone. And the many stories were told there by the press. But we know that tomorrow, that is the 8th of March, is the event of the moment. That is the International Women's Day. And this year, the global theme is Choose to Change. That's talking about women. And Cameroon has adopted its own theme, and that's what happened. Female leadership for an equal future in the world of COVID-19. And it is because of COVID-19 that 8th of March celebration this year will not be a normal thing, full of pomp, full of fanfare, full of march past, and all other things that go with open celebrations, just because of COVID-19. Now we're going to begin from that point. Women will not go down to the streets to the avenues, to the grandstands to march past what they like to do most. But we know that they are going to, after that period where there will be roundtable conferences and some other discussions, they are going to go down for celebration. I begin with you, Bertrand. Don't you think that what we have prevented happening in the open national normal space, in the grandstands, in the open fields, will find itself in the bars and other places?
Thank you for the question. I think government has taken, if you follow the Prime Minister's declaration on Friday, government has indicated that all the barrier measures that were prescribed on the 17th of March 2020 will have to be applied. So March Pass has been suspended to mark celebrations. But if the women are going to follow the prescriptions as given by government, then it will be good that gatherings of more than 50 people are not allowed. But I don't think these measures have been implemented as at now, because administrative officials were instructed by the PM to see to it that these measures are applied. So it is just an issue of us watching to see if tomorrow the women are still going to gather, because it is not all about the March Pass, which has been cancelled, but they are going to gather in large crowds, in snack bars, in bars and cabarets around. So COVID-19 will still spread there.
Okay. Baldwin, I move from one end of the set to another. Bertrand is saying, we are waiting to see what happens. What are you waiting to see? That they will respect, or that they will go their way they always go?
My wish is to see these women respect these outlined barrier measures, because the 8th of March, unfortunately, most women have not really understood what an International Day for the Woman is, because most of them believe it's an opportunity for them to go out there, to go to the bars, to go and drink, and to get involved in some kind of absurd activities. With these prescribed outline, or these outlined barrier measures by the government of Cameroon that must be respected. Tomorrow is March 8th. There is no March Past for the women. They have to celebrate these days, psychologically speaking. It is a wish, a humble wish, because with no March Past, as Bertrand was saying a while ago, most of them will have this tendency to go to their bars later during the day, and these are glaring opportunities during which most of them who have not been respecting these outlined barrier measures, such as a physical distancing, while finding themselves in such environments, will easily see themselves, most of them will be tested positive at the end of the day. So the humble wish is to see these women spend the day, apart from some roundtable conferences that will be organized, we'll see some of them involved in some of these roundtable conferences, spend the day reflecting on the theme of this year's celebration, psychologically speaking, how important the woman is as far as nation building is concerned, than rather finding themselves in some kind of environments that do not really, or that are not necessary at this point in time.
That is right. Just to remind ourselves that the theme, as we're talking about, they should reflect on it and make sure that they take the leadership position is female leadership for an equal future in the world of COVID-19. And even going back to the global theme, you see, choose to change. Women should choose to change. Change from the old attitudes to an embrace a new attitude, including these COVID-19 barrier measures. I think that's very important. Bertrand talked about we're waiting to see. Baldwin has talked about the wish to see. He has aligned what should happen, that is respected. Henshaw Orok Are, is it possible for these women?
It's difficult, you know. All attitudes hardly die. So my mothers, my sisters, I know everybody has ironed their dresses of 8 March, that by 2-3 they will go out to take some bottles of beer, eat and do merrymaking. But I'm calling on my sisters, on my mothers, to respect those measures against COVID-19, because COVID-19 is ravaging in the whole world. And more to that, this is not the time for them to be merrymaking. Merrymaking is every day. I don't see why they should choose only the 8th of March to exhibit some type of deviant attitude, where we see some women sometimes they drink, get drunk, fall in gutters, some even sleep outside and come the following day. It's not honoring a woman who is the mother of humanity. I'm begging, calling on my mothers, on my sisters, to respect those barrier measures, because they are the future of tomorrow, because without a woman, humanity will not exist.
It wouldn't exist, exactly, Henshaw. And talking about the ravaging effects of COVID-19, you talked about that. The latest statistics show that we have 117,125,239 total cases of positive cases, of course, of COVID-19, and the USA alone has 2,601,011, followed by India. Followed after India, you have Brazil, Russia, and all these upsurging figures are threatening, especially with the new strands that are coming up. And this week, the Prime Minister, Dr. Joseph John Ngute, came out with instructions from the President of the Republic to reiterate with communication to tell us what happens. We are first of all going to listen to him on the situation of COVID-19 in Cameroon.
In the space of 1 week, more than 3,000 new cases were recorded, bringing the overall number of people testing positive for COVID-19 to 38,988. Over the same period, that is 1 week, 37 patients died as a result of this disease, bringing the total number of deaths to 588. There is every reason to believe that the deterioration in the epidemiological situation that we are observing today is largely due to the laxity in the application of safety measures and to the failure to comply with the restrictive measures taken on 17 March 2020, some of which are still in force. Indeed, a very large majority of our compatriots gather carelessly in public or private spaces, disregarding the rules of social distancing and without taking into account the limit of 50 people for any gathering. Many no longer even wear masks, which is compulsory in all public places. Some even continue to think that COVID-19 is a pure invention or that it exists only in other countries. Such behavior is irresponsible and favors the spread of the virus, especially at a time when many variants have been discovered in certain countries. This disease is real. It continues to wreak havoc among our loved ones and strikes brutally at people with comorbidity. In this context, government has an obligation to protect each and every one of its citizens, despite the reluctance or denial of the reality of this disease by some of our compatriots.
Yes, we listened there to the Prime Minister, Joseph John Ngute, talking about the situation in Cameroon, situation within 1 week, and the figures there, you listen to him, having 87 deaths in 1 week. The figures are surging. It's not a very good thing. He has talked about laxity, failure to comply with barrier measures, disregard for social, like physical distancing, failure to wear masks. Some even think that is a fiction, that COVID-19 doesn't exist, or that it exists. For those who think that it exists, that is elsewhere. But he has concluded by saying that government is going to take its obligation to make sure that the carelessness of others does not, put the lives of other people in danger. When you listen to your Prime Minister, Parfai, for a minute.
Yes, I think the Prime Minister is right to say the disease is real. And I think, first of all, I would say God has blessed Africa. If not, the situation would have been different. But coming back to our own role as traditional healers, first of all, let me greet Bishop Cleda for his invention, what he has been able to put on the table. The rest of our practitioners are doing a wonderful job. Now, I am not saying that administering what they have. I happen to be the president of Prometra Cameroon, one of the stronghold of Prometra International. And we are blessed with a research center that Ford Foundation put up for us in Dakar, Senegal.
Prometra, what is that?
Prometra International. That is promotion of traditional medicine.
Okay.
Yes. This is an international organization. And it's also a very strong organization here in Cameroon. We have been able to put up 12 products, that is 12 plants, which we have sent over because we want clinical trials to be carried out. And the results, I'm sure, is going to do something wonderful to help Africa.
Since you have gone straight into what the traditional medical practitioners are doing, you've come up with the 12 different plants. Is it against COVID or just plants?
No, specifically against COVID-19.
Yes.
Because we are now judging it from the symptoms, you see, and we got this from the Sahel, the forest, and the savannah. And then we have been able to sit down, discuss with those who came up with this. I have mine, one which is circulating now all over.
Is it treating COVID?
It puts down the symptoms.
Mm-hmm. That's treating COVID?
Yes. I would not tell you that this is the full cure for COVID.
No, you wouldn't, because actually they are the symptoms that are treated. Because when you bring down the temperature, when you bring down some other, if the immunity of the infected person is strong, gradually gets its place, it will obviously beat COVID if it were still in the preliminary stage. You made mention of Archbishop Cleda, Samuel Cleda. I want also to acknowledge that the government officially acknowledged what he did and even gave him some financial assistance to get Cameroonians out of this. Do you actually think that the traditional medicine that you have, because we have 2% of the people about 2% of people who have COVID, they die, don't you also think that it's not actually traditional medicine, since you don't yet have any scientific proof that you are treating, that the people just get well as many others who are not treated get well?
Well, I think there has been some living proof of what we have given out, or personally, what I've given out to the public or to some patients. But what I want to say is that we make sure we organize ourselves in committees. The plants that they bring, we sit down, discuss it with the people who have living evidence that they were able to treat this symptom before we assemble and send over, because we need clinical trials.
Okay.
Yes, because without that, the scientific world will not accept what we are saying.
Yes, let me say the scientific, we are with you, they have a dosage for the vaccines. They say we take 2 doses, one, the second after 3 weeks after the first. With traditional medicines, do we always have a problem of dosage?
No, there's no problem. I want to tell you there is no problem. I know most people will always say we don't have the dosage. That is not true. We have our dosage. What I'm giving out now, you see, the bitter cola and the alligator pepper, I tell you one bitter cola to 5 grams of alligator pepper. And believe me, those who have taken it are sending the news far and wide.
Yes, that one is quantified. What about the people who give in gallons and in drums?
Oh no, nobody has given a gallon of medicine and asked a patient to take the whole gallon. No, it doesn't exist. They tell you, you are taking this gallon because that is the quantity that you have to take since you are not in the healing home. Mm-hmm. But if you are in the healing home, every morning the healer gets a glass or a cup, you see, or half a cup or 3/4 of a cup and give you to take. To say that we don't have dosage and we give medicines in gallons and the people will just go and take it. No.
Yes, we'll go back to the Prime Minister's message. Henshaw, he talked of, we are still discussing the Prime Minister's message. He talked of laxity, he talked of failure to comply with the barrier measures. He also talked about disregard for physical, that is for social distancing, and failure to wear masks. Some people don't even accept that COVID exists, Badwin Sama. You have been close to these people, reporting every day on COVID. What do you say?
I should say the Prime Minister's outing is timely. Timely because it has been very, very disappointing seeing, noticing the attitude of most Cameroonians lately. From the month of October 2020, many Cameroonians vehemently stopped respecting the different outlined barrier measures. It was difficult to get to an environment and see the respect of physical distancing. It was practically impossible to see individuals wearing their face mask. If they find you move to a town like Douala and you put on a face mask, you will be seen as a strange individual in a town like Douala. And many Cameroonians had come up with this belief that COVID-19 was not real and that it was an invention, just as the Prime Minister stated in his declaration. It was quite unfortunate, and we've gotten to a point in time in the situation in Cameroon where we have more than 3,000 persons who have been tested positive for COVID-19 in less than 2 weeks in the country. It is real, and the declaration simply comes to remind us, especially those who have been backsliding, those who have stopped respecting these barrier measures, that it doesn't just suffice for you to sit back at home and listen to what, for example, we say on TV or say on radio or written on social media about the COVID-19. When you have somebody who is close to you who dies of COVID-19, then
you will look at it from a different angle. Yes, Henshaw, you listen to him. There are people who truly, like the Prime Minister said, are still arguing that it doesn't exist. When they see people dying in other countries, like we get some statistics here, they say it is that way, it is not here. Whereas we have COVID-19 among us, and with the new strands.
Yeah, those who are saying COVID-19 doesn't exist are those who have not seen corpses of those who are dead of COVID-19. And those who are saying COVID-19 does not exist are people who are always doubting Thomases. You know, in a society you have such type of people. The statistics which the Prime Minister gave, that more than 3,000 people have died in a week, to them is a miracle. Tested positive.
Yeah, 37.
Yes, died. To them it's a marriage because they say they have not seen somebody who has been tested and even a corpse. You know, all habit hardly die, and I'm calling on my brothers and sisters to respect barrier measures. But these barrier measures, respecting the barrier measures will be difficult because, you know, we are in Africa, we are in Cameroon, life is difficult. If they tell people to respect 50 in a gathering, what will they say in the market? In the market, people must go and buy things in the market, and that's a hub for contamination. You also have concerts. You also have, you also have concerts. We watched a concert at the National Museum where we had hundreds and thousands of people gathered there. I don't think all of those people were tested before entering into that place. But I'm just calling on my brothers and sisters to respect those barrier measures, and for the government to also hit hard on taxi people who are overloading, because that's another area where people can easily be contaminated, without talking of others' fear of mass gathering. Like you have sometimes you have schools, you also have even hospitals.
With schools, I should just say the Minister of Secondary Education, also of the basic education, they took measures last year, June. They started in June, and when they noticed that it was working, they went to the second phase of reopening schools fully, but made sure that it is in 2 shifts. And right now, I'm told that the Minister of Secondary Education is actually making sure that all the students, all the teachers, all the pupils will be tested, and make sure that outsiders don't infiltrate into the campuses, so that we control that. I think that's part of it. Bertrand, you heard what Fenshaw said, you heard what Sama said, but the Prime Minister finished by saying that government will take its obligation.
Government will take its obligation, Mr. Killian, but let's start from how we got here. Cameroon is paying a price for negligence. At a certain point, we believe that we had conquered COVID. This country was over 90% recovery rate. Of what? How can you be in the midst of a pandemic and then an interministerial committee that is set to monitor government response plan goes to sleep for 6 months? We are paid a price for what we did. The interministerial committee that is headed by the PM went to sleep.
How?
They did not monitor. They have not had any meeting. The declaration that we have had this week is because the interministerial committee met on Thursday, and they have taken new measures because of the upsurge. Are you saying you
did not cover their meetings, or they did not meet?
Have you been hearing any declaration from them? They went to sleep. Cameroonians have covered events in ministries, and even in the Ministry of Public Health, the disinfectant there, I've gone there several times, they don't even work. Well, where the hydroalcoholic gels used to be placed, you don't find them. So it has been general negligence, because what the PM is saying and what other people are saying is like, it is only the common man in the street that has not been respecting barrier measures. It is everybody went to sleep. Well, so we have to take the general. We have to take it.
Saying that everybody went to sleep could be an overstatement.
It is not an overstatement, because I travel and at the checkpoints on the highway, the security people don't check marks again.
Not all, because I have been going around with the National Gendarmerie, the control.
That is when the cameras are coming.
When the cameras come, they check masks. You cannot enter some of these places in the ministries without wearing your face mask. That one is a fact. We must accept it. Going to sleep, maybe the measures were eased. And you also know you have been seeing Badu in summer every evening giving updates that come from the Ministry of Public Health. Unfortunately, we did everything to get an official from the Ministry of Public Health to be here, and we were disappointed. Now we are going to listen to, since we're talking about the barrier measures, and the Prime Minister also came back on the barrier measures and instructed the various ministers, including the Minister of Territorial Administration, to make sure that Cameroon does not get deep into what we can call a likely mess. We're going to listen to the Prime Minister once again on the barrier measures.
I therefore seize this opportunity to remind everyone that the measures taken on 17th March 2020, which were not expressly lifted by the President of the Republic, are and remain in force. They include the prohibition of gatherings of more than 50 people throughout the national territory, working remotely and using electronic means of communication as much as possible, especially for the organization of meetings where social distancing cannot be observed. The suspension of missions abroad for members of government and public and para-public sector agents, except in the case of express derogation. The systematic wearing of masks in all public places and respect for social distancing. Considering the significant increase in the number of cases of contamination, and in order to ensure the effective application of the measures already enacted, administrative authorities have been instructed by the Minister of Territorial Administration to ensure, within the framework of the administrative police missions, that hand washing or the use of hand sanitizers is reinstated at the entrance of all establishments open to the public, including places of worship. The ministers in charge of education and the Minister of Trade would also ensure the application of this measure respectively in schools and universities as well as in shopping centers. Safety measures must be complied with in all circumstances and in all places, including in open markets, in meeting places such as bus stations, taxi and motorbike pickup points, as well as in public transport. I would like to stress that access to any establishment open to the public will henceforth be subject to the wearing of a mask. Also, screening at air, sea, and land borders have been stepped up to reduce the risk of importing variants of COVID-19 in our country. Large gatherings and risky behavior are prohibited. I particularly insist on the imperative need to rigorously respect the limit of 50 persons as well as safety measures during meetings, ceremonies, events, and other official or private celebrations, especially when these meetings take place in closed spaces in order to avoid the emergence of clusters. We must not lose sight of the fact that each individual protects himself and protects others.
Exactly. You followed, he has come back on the barrier measures with no exception, that we're going to make sure that this time will be implemented. And when he calls the Minister of Territorial Administration to do that, you know, it covers the whole territory. If you dare not do that, you face sanctions. This time...
Yes, I think we are implementing these barrier measures. And the instructions of the Prime Minister, I used to take my car at the loudspeaker and go around my area, Yaoundé 7, and even hold monthly meetings with traditional healers. What is interesting is that the traditional healers, Cameroon traditional healers, respect these measures strictly. And we do everything to buy, you know, the face mask, distribute to them, tell them exactly what to do. Even get into homes, we move into homes to make sure all the traditional healers that we have respect these barrier measures. Because it is real, as the Prime Minister said. It is true. We know it is real. Because most of us, we've given examples to our people of those who have died. Ask them to visit. We even show them pictures of those that have died. So we are respecting these measures, and it is important for the general public to respect it.
Yes, you talk about medical, that's traditional medical practitioners.
Yes.
What's the difference between traditional medical practitioners and herbalists and the rest? Because some of them may not actually look at it from a modern perspective, like you're saying.
But that's a role that we're doing now, the organization is doing. You see, the traditional medical practice or the healing practice is divided into 4 sections. And then the domain that is actually working on this issue to look for a solution is the herbalist.
Instead?
Yes.
Okay.
The herbalist, because these are the people that deal with plants. You see, you have mediums, you have seers, you know, you have traditional priests. But because we want to contribute, you know, in putting something on the table, so we are inviting all our herbalists.
And the priests, what are you talking about the priests? They should be the soothsayers, they should be the fortune tellers?
No, the fortune teller is different from the traditional priest.
Okay.
The traditional priests are, for example, in the Northwest, all homes have traditional priests. That is the successors, you know, who give blessings to families, you know, not the actual medication, oral medication. Okay. Whereas the herbalist prepares oral medications, you know, judging on from the symptoms.
Okay. Okay. The Prime Minister, Bertrand, has come back on these measures and has promised that they will make sure that the carelessness of some people does not put the lives of others in danger. When you listen to him, what do you take home?
Certainly, government has to be serious. Administrative officials the devolved services of Minat going right down to the DOs, and then even the councils. Everybody has to go to work. Like the Delegate General of National Security said during the joint press conference this week, you cannot move behind every Cameroonian to force them to wear masks. So it is a collective call. Protecting yourself means you're protecting your family members, you're protecting friends and loved ones. Because if you go out and out of your carelessness, you catch the virus, you are bringing it back home. So I think it is a general call for everybody to respect the barrier measures, especially within the school milieu.
General call, Henshaw, Orok, Array, but we say call. We mean that people decide whether they heed to their call or not. What should be done beyond that call?
I do believe with the message from the Prime Minister, Chief Director Ngute, Cameroonians are going to take it very seriously with the statistics he gave to the public, and more to that, he has included all those who are concerned with the COVID issue, directly or indirectly, to make sure that everybody respects barrier measures. And mostly with the new variant of COVID-19, which is more deadly than the first one, I do believe people are going to respect those measures, although it's going to be gradual, because all habit hardly die, and people will learn to live with the new ways of barrier measures. They should actually learn to live with that. But we're going to listen to the Prime Minister again before I come back to you. We've talked elaborately about the barrier measures, but there's one new thing that is coming up. The vaccine. Already Cameroon has received some material, and it was part of the Prime Minister's declaration outing there. We'll listen to that, and we see what that vaccine actually is awaiting us to make sure we get out of this. PM John Gute, once again.
With a view to strengthening our prevention mechanism, the government, on the instructions of the head of state, has taken steps with partner organizations to acquire vaccines against COVID-19. More than 1 million doses of the vaccine will be available in the very near future. Once these vaccines become available, a vaccination plan shall be set up and vaccination shall be voluntary. I would like to note that although vaccination is voluntary and not compulsory, the government encourages all Cameroonians to be vaccinated when the time comes, in order to acquire the immunity that will enable our community to protect itself against COVID-19 for a return to normalcy. While waiting for the outcome of ongoing steps, personal discipline, as well as the strengthening of individual and collective prevention measures are the most effective means of halting the spread of this disease in our country and preserving the lives of our fellow citizens. I therefore invite all of us to mobilize in solidarity, especially community relays such as religious and traditional authorities, opinion leaders, political leaders, associations and trade unions. Let us all observe the directives of the head of state concerning the fight against COVID-19. Let us work together to fight this pandemic that disrupts our social balance and the realization of our development projects. Let us rise and bar the way to the spread of this disease by respecting basic hygiene rules, by systematically wearing a mask in all public places, by respecting social distancing as much as possible, and avoiding popular gatherings. This is a collective requirement, but also, and above all, a civic duty which transcends our personal, religious, or philosophical beliefs. I thank you very much.
We accept, we also thank you, PM John Gute, for coming out on the instructions of the head of state, Badu Sama. The new thing there, apart from what we've talked about here on the set, is the vaccine that's coming up. the vaccine. There's so much talk about vaccine, to be very frank. What should Cameroonians do? That we're going to go around the table and go out of this topic. How should Cameroonians receive whatever vaccine? Because we have about 6 Cameroon is going to choose. There's a committee working on which one Cameroon is going to take. What should be the behavior of Cameroonians towards this?
As somebody who has been talking to many Cameroonians, somebody who has been talking with many health professionals for more than a year now, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, it's good news for Cameroon. And Cameroonians should know that whatsoever decision the government is taking as far as this particular pandemic is concerned, it is for the good of the population. So Cameroonians should embrace this. And it's true that the Prime Minister has said it is not going to be compulsory, it's not going to be mandatory, but Cameroonians should know that the vaccine has been used or has been tested in other countries, and we have to, for those of us for those who are still to believe that the coronavirus really exists, the pandemic exists, and we have to embrace the vaccine and go for the vaccine.
People are dying from this COVID-19 every day. People are dying. We should accept this fact. Hence, how should Cameroonians receive this vaccine that is already having so many controversial ideas around it?
Yeah, this vaccine has a lot of controversies because people don't really know what's inside, and those who even want to go for the vaccine are saying the top officials should first start by taking those vaccines, meaning the head of state, the prime minister. They should show by example, not by talking. And more to that if they take these vaccines, if there are adverse reactions, if someone dies, their family is going to be indemnized. More to that if they take this vaccine, is the confinement going to end? If they take the vaccine, how far are they sure it's going to work? Those are the questions people are asking.
Actually, those are the questions.
No, Mr. Kilandadi, please let me finish. Yes. I'm speaking for the masses. 1 minute. And more to that, that's what is causing all this controversy. Because in Nigeria, we saw that President Buhari took it. In Ghana, the president of Ghana took it. In Equatorial Guinea. So we are expecting that President Paul Biya should begin by taking, so that we see in the United States of America, Joe Biden took in. He was administered that vaccine by a Cameroonian from the Manu division. So the head of state should first start, then we go down.
We have understood. He is listening to you, and he has Cameroonians at heart. I will end with you, from Inen. Bertrand, this fact of doubting the vaccine, there are some renowned white people who are kind of with mockery asking Africans, we have taken polio for so many years, we have taken tetanus vaccines for so many years, we have taken, we cannot count how many vaccines that have come from the West and Africans have taken, and it has helped them. Why do you think that is today that they are coming with something which is not good for Africans? So how should Cameroonians reason in front of the new vaccine that is on the way?
We have to look at the role of social media, the role that social media has played within this health crisis. There's a lot of fake news, misinformation out there. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there related to the COVID-19. When you go to social media, anybody is saying anything, and the common man finds it difficult to believe. Not to believe, and what to even believe. Mm-hmm. Look at what happened recently in Kumba. There was a stampede in schools, and 3 students were injured just because they suspected that some people were seen with wearing jackets, were going into a school to vaccinate. So I think, like he was saying, government officials have to set the pace. It is not compulsory, but you have to assure Cameroonians that, we need to step
up the level of communication.
Communication has to be stepped up, like the Minister of Communication said after the ministerial committee meeting.
Para 5 for my name, Ngu Edward, vaccine.
Well, you see, I think, Mr. Prime Minister, what we need is real counseling. We have to get people to go out and talk to the population. You see, right message needs the right messenger. And for this type of message, the traditional healer is the best messenger.
Traditional healer, traditional rulers,
yes,
all the religious leaders. Okay, we got that. Thank you very much for that. We have just about 10 minutes to talk about one other topic. It was one of the events of the week, in International Civil Protection Day that came up. It comes up every 1st of March, and it has to do with how people behave, how the intervention in case of natural catastrophe, man-made catastrophe, disasters in general, even some at a certain point, civic education, how people build houses, what you are of civil society. You work also with the Red, and you know so much about civil protection. Tell us in terms of intervention. Ensure.
In terms of intervention, when we have man-made or natural disasters, volunteers.
In terms of Cameroon, contextualized.
Yes. In terms of disasters, we have volunteers who go in the field. We intervene because we have all our volunteers nationally. So from the divisions, from the subdivisions, they intervene. For example, during the landslide that was in Lebialem, we intervene. And you should also know that
Amwache in the west. We
yes.
have in the west also Menwa. Sometimes we had so many of them last year. We have had so many of them. So briefly, you just end.
Yes, in the Menwa we did intervene also, but you should also know that it's not only natural disaster. We also have man-made. Like for example, when you have accidents will come in to give first aid, which is a temporary treatment while waiting for professionals to come in. And natural disasters are current. Like for example, we had a natural disaster, the eruption of Mount Fako, where many people houses were destroyed, and also in the far north region we have droughts. Yes, we have droughts where our volunteers come in to intervene.
Yes, actually we know intervention. We have bad wind. What other aspects of civil protection? Let's talk about buildings. Let me guide you.
Talking about buildings, we've had some recent sensitization as to what some Cameroonians need to know about where exactly to build a house, for example, because people get involved in building processes without knowing how conducive an environment can be as far as your building or your lodging is concerned. Cameroonians have to consult some specialists who have greater knowledge as far as the safety of that environment is concerned.
Yes, you're talking about having knowledge. We spoke with the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, who actually tells us the importance of making people of sensitization and intervention. We're going to listen to him, and Bertrand and Pafominian, I will come back to you for us to continue the debate.
The International Day of the Civil Protection is a day to create awareness and to sensitize the population that we are living in a world of uncertainty. Secondly, we have what we call natural disasters. We can name them: earthquake, floods, tsunami, fire outbreak, and other natural disasters. But we still have disasters which occur as a result of human carelessness. I give an example. For instance, you are putting up a building of, let's say, 10-story, and the foundation is not solid. At the end of the day, the building will collapse. And that is a catastrophe, a disaster as a result of human carelessness. So I think that this day is a day where we sensitize the population and discuss and educate them how to prevent natural disasters and how to assist vulnerable people in times of disasters. The ideology about civil protection is we have to risk our lives to save the lives of others. It is understood. And I think that in this architecture, President Paul Biya is a living example, because whenever there is a catastrophe, a disaster, even at midnight, he informs the government that take immediate measures to save lives.
There is one particular thing, Bertrand, that Minister Paul Atanganji talked about, Territorial Administration boss talked about here, is about buildings. This is very recurrent. He made mention of a building, 10-story building, but you can even have 2-story building with weak foundation. There's one building in Yaoundé that was brought down, and many people clapped at Melen.
Before coming to the question, permit me start by saying that the future of Cameroon civil protection is bright. With the election of a Cameroonian, that's a pioneer female SG of the International Civil Defense Organization, Madame Yat Mariatu, who is a former director of civil protection at the Ministry of Territorial Administration. Mm-hmm. She was in Cameroon. She was granted audience by the PM, the Minister of External Relations, and MINAT, and she made promises that projects that she initiated while at the MINAT will have funding. And she has said, she has also pledged to, build the capacity of local stakeholders on how to intervene when there is natural disaster or even man-made. But now this is it. We will keep crying of man-made disaster, natural disaster, if at the level of buildings, corruption does not end in our councils. Because every council has a town planning department. And when you go to some risk zones, when a foundation is started, the town planning department will come and mark the building for demolition or stop work and whatever. But unfortunately, you always see those buildings erected. So for us to fight man-made disaster, like what happened in Guache, you discover even that after government chased away the survivors, people still wanted to construct, and the governor had to go there to send away the people. So we have to ensure that corruption at the town planning departments of every council is checked in order for us to maintain, not to build in risk zones.
Thank you very much. That will be our last word, Badwin, on any of the two topics that we have treated.
My last word is will concern COVID-19, pleading with Cameroonians to be self-disciplined, because the Prime Minister laid a lot of emphasis on self-discipline, because if you are self-disciplined, you avoid getting infected and you avoid having your closest neighbor infected. Also, knowing very well that there are many people who know that they are COVID-19 positive, they refuse to impose self-discipline and they decide to infect others. So self-discipline should be the watchword.
That would be too bad also, Heisho.
I'm calling on the public to respect barrier measures against COVID-19, as well as those who are capable of taking the vaccine should take, because prevention is better than cure.
Thank you very much, Pa. 5 for million, good Edward, our own Pa.
Yes, you see, talking about the building, we as traditional leaders, we advise our people. There is a difference between this earth that you compress and the one that we smash. That one is stronger than the compressed one.
Okay.
So we used to tell them that be very, very careful, because when you do that, you have to plaster to avoid incidents.
Okay.
And then the second part on this COVID-19, I think we have told our members, and I think those who are in areas not around township where they can follow the media, that they should stop laying claims to the treatment of this COVID-19 until we have had clinical trials and we are able to prove
that this cures this treats that.
That is it. So I think it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure is shared. Thank you very much for coming.
Healers, please take note.
Yes.
Builders, take note.
Okay, thank you very much. We honored with your presence, ladies. No lady. We have Bertrand Noah, who is the coordinating editor, the Median newspaper. We had Henshaw Orok Ari, who is of the civil society, Baldwin Sama, journalist, CRTV. We want to thank you enormously for helping educate Cameroonians, sensitize some of them, pass on the message of the government on this very special edition of Press R today. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for giving us your attention. If you missed this program from the beginning, you can watch the broadcast on Monday between 2:30 and 3 p.m. Or if you want to watch the program immediately after this, you can just connect to CRTV Web, Facebook, and you will be on Press R. Thank you once again. We wish you the best.